Hello lovely people, welcome back to my channel. This is Simone here and we're gonna talk about Record Store Day 2026. The list came out yesterday and there's so much to talk about. I'm gonna try to keep it short and sweet, but there's a long list of stuff that I think is worth your attention. So I have conflicting feelings when it comes to RSD as an entity, especially given the recent history with Matt from Too Many Records and hearing a lot about how record store owners actually have to deal with RSD as an entity. Having said that, I am very grateful for the idea of Record Store Day, when it first came out, to really support local independent record stores because they are the driving force for all this stuff, essentially. So yeah, and in the last few years, the list has been, not as good from what concerns me. Obviously, I come from a soul, funk, jazz background mostly. So this year looks like there's a lot of releases that are actually worth my time and your time, my attention, your attention. So we're gonna go through some of the key titles that I selected. I looked at the Record Store Day list for the UK, the US, Germany, France, Italy, and Spain. I think that's what I checked out. I always like to, and the Canadian one as well. I like to check regional releases because they might have some hidden gems in there that could be also worth your time and attention. Also, no Fleetwood Mac this year. Thank God for that. Finally, we are free from more Fleetwood Mac. I'm like, yeah, but that's a rant for another day. So I divided the list into three main sections. Must-haves for me personally, stuff that I think is really good that it gets a reissue, but maybe it's not for me because I already own it, or I'm not too much into that enough to justify buying it. And then stuff that I don't know what it is and I'm not familiar with it, but I think it's worth discovering. And you can also help me with that, navigating especially that side of the list. So we're gonna start with my personal two must-haves. One is the Fonte album Tigalero. That album is amazing. First time on vinyl. It really needs a vinyl issue of that. I love Fonte from The Little Brother, from Foreign Exchange. His solo work, Charity Starts at Home, is a phenomenal album. So it's finally coming after 10 years. Great stuff. I'm really looking forward to that. Unfortunately, I'm here in the UK, and obviously it comes out in Italy, in the US, but not in the UK. So I probably will have to buy it at some point somewhere else. Not looking forward to that, but that's just what it is. The second one that is a must-have for me is going to be the Colonel Backshot, Oh What a Lovely War. That is a phenomenal album, great opening track. I have a reissue of it, but unfortunately most reissues have a defect in the tape so that the actual first track skips, and it doesn't skip in, it's not a record issue, it's not a vinyl issue, it's a tape issue. So I really hope they fix this issue. And also, I know that this time they released the 7-inch of the single on it as well as the LP. So hopefully we get a proper decent version of that album and of that track specifically. Classic. I know it's not soul and funk, but it's just classic music that it's really worth your time and attention if you're not familiar with it. Then we're gonna go into the really good albums that finally get a reissue. In no particular order, we're gonna start with Amusement Park Self-Titled, really good soul funk album. Disco-y at times, boogie at times, really decent albums. The Popcorn cover is quite an iconic cover, I would say. And next we have Corinne Bailey Rae live in New York. I love Corinne Bailey Rae. I saw her live twice. Really good artists, have all of her records. I'm not a fan of live albums. I only have like 3 or 4 really good live albums. But with live albums, it's tricky for me because they either really are something special, where the artist really pushes it to another level, or if it's just a normal live rendition of a track that I really love, it's usually a hit and miss. So I'll see how I feel about it. I'm gonna listen to the album again online and then decide if I'm gonna actually buy it or not. And Vogue EV3, first time on vinyl. R&B soul fans are gonna be happy about that. We then have Flying Lotus 1983. I actually have the original press of that when it first came out. Huge Flying Lotus fan. Does this deserve a reissue? Yeah, I think so. It's still somehow available, but it's good to see it come out again. And especially, I don't think it's on streaming, so I believe this will also be the beginning of this album be put on streaming services, which I think is always a good idea. Even though I'm not a streaming kind of guy, you know, people want to listen to good music, and that is a good album, so great. Next we have the Funkadelic self-titled. It's gonna come out as a picture disc. I'm not sure if how I feel about it, because it's a phenomenal album. I have a copy of it, but it actually came out all analog quite recently in several versions. Do we need an extra picture disc version of it? Not sure how I feel about it, but yeah, it is what it is. Next, we have the Jill Scott Heron's Reflections album. Really good. I already own it, so I don't need it this year, but if you don't know it, check it out, because anything Jill Scott Heron does is worth your attention. But yeah, really good choice. Next, we have the EK White, or IK White, Changing Times. Finally, this gets a reissue. It doesn't, I don't like it enough to justify buying it, but but I know a lot of people that actually really like that album, and it's quite a hard to find one. So I'm glad this is getting a reissue. We also are having Jocelyn Brown, Somebody Else's Guy, on a 12-inch. I love that record. There's a lot of memories attached to it, so I'm really happy to get a reissue. I kind of wish the LP version, or the LP would get a reissue. I already have the LP, and I remember paying like a fiver or like 5-6 quid for it. And now I saw it the other day for like 35 quid, and I thought, oh, that's a lot of money. I checked out online prices, and it really shot up in price. Not too crazy money, but still, I remember finding it everywhere for really cheap. It's a really good album, and that track is an absolute classic. Does it deserve a 12-inch reissue? Potentially. I don't know how I feel about 12 inches reissues, to be fair, right now. Especially for something like this. I don't know. I have conflicted feelings, but still good to see a really good title being reissued. Next, we have La Bicifre, Crying, Laughing, Loving Line. Classic album. I'm not going to buy it just because I already have a copy. Classic album sampled by many, and for good reason. It's an amazing album from start to finish. So I'm glad it's getting a reissue this record store day. Then we have Ludovico Einaudi Divenire. That is a phenomenal neo-classical, modern classical, ambient-ish album. I think one of my favorites Einaudi releases. It's absolutely soul, like, oh, it fills your soul with a lot of feelings. I'm not the kind of guy that only likes sort of piano solo albums, but this is just something else. And again, it's not just piano solo or acoustic piano. This is an incredible album from start to finish. If you don't know it, go and check it out, because it's genuinely worth your time and attention. From that, we go on to Nas's Godson, classic hip-hop album, probably one of his best work, together with, apart from Illmatic, of course, which is obviously top 3 hip-hop albums of all time. Godson is probably my second favorite album from Nas. I'm not sure how hard it is to get right now, but it's definitely something you don't really see that often. So, or at least in stores in the wild. So it's good it's getting a reissue, especially with all the other stuff that Nas has put out that I'm like, oh, not a fan. Sorry. Maybe it's because I'm comparing everything he does with Illmatic and nothing sort of can stand, against it because it's such a timeless classic. But I'm like, oh, yeah. So it's good that good stuff from him gets a reissue. And next we have Olafur Arnalds with Sages. Um, Anything Olafur does is most of the times a must own. I need to re-listen to this again properly to make sure that I can justify this, buying this. But most likely I will pick it up if I find it as a decent price. Then we go into a 12-inch single of Retta Hughes, Light My Fire. I don't need this because I already have the LP with this song, but classic Doors cover, sampled by many. So if you don't know that track, check it out. But I would suggest go and check out the LP more than the actual 12-inch. But yeah, we can start with that song, to be fair. We have the two RZA releases. I'm not a huge fan of those particular albums. I'm gonna listen to them again just to make sure that I know that I'm comfortable and confident not buying those at this time. But we'll see. But I know a lot of people will be very happy to see those two releases finally reissued. Then we have the South Shore Commission self-titled, really good soul funk album. I already have a copy, so I don't need this one, but I know a lot of people will be happy to see this. It's actually not too hard to find and it's not too expensive, but it's good to have a wider release of it, I still think. Then we have Spunk, Tighten It Up. Yes, that's a title. Sorry. I know it's a bit ridiculous, but P-Funk, really good P-Funk. It doesn't cut it for me enough, but I know a lot of people will really appreciate this release. Then we have a 12-inch single of Rapper's Delight and The Message, a dub version. I'm curious because I'm not familiar with the dub version that they're going to release, so I need to actually check it out properly. Obviously, I have both the Sugar Gang LP and the Grandmaster Flash LP that have both songs, so I don't think I will need a 12-inch for both. However, I'm curious to hear the dub version and see if I'm missing out on something or some greatness. We then have Jhené Aiko, Trip. Great. It's great to see more Jhené Aiko on wax. I still think the Sailing Souls album or EP, I'm not sure, still needs a proper vinyl reissue because it's something that went under the radar and I think it's her best work to date. But it's still good to see that this is getting reissued because the original is just way too expensive, and yeah, it's good. We love what she does, so that's good. Then we also have Buster Williams, Pinnacle. Again, not for me because I'm not a fan enough to justify buying it, but I know loads of people will really appreciate that. We also have a Roy Ayers Daddy Bug reissue. Now, that's something that is not too hard to find and it's not too expensive, but it's good to have a proper, I think it's coming all analog. I might be wrong in saying that, but it looks like a really good ratio of that. So if you're a Roy Ayers fan, and I know loads of them, Charlie Duck, one of my mentors, I know he's a huge Roy Ayers fan. So I know he will I know he has all this stuff, but I know he will appreciate a new decent copy of this classic. We then also have Jade to the Max, a great R&B sort of album, and it's been a long time since it was on wax, I think. I need to actually do some more research on that. I'm familiar with it, but again, I will listen to it again to see if I justify the buying it for this record store day or not. And lastly, we have Elzai, Lead Poison, a phenomenal hip-hop album that I genuinely think went under the radar. If you don't know it, go and check it out because it's genuinely really good. It's the 10-year anniversary with an alternate cover. I think this is a regional release for the US, but it's worth checking it out if you don't know it. And if you're a hip hop fan, that is an album that you gotta check out. Then we're gonna go into the stuff that for me I'm not as familiar with, that it looks really interesting and I need to discover, I need to do some more research. And this is where you can come, you can help me sort of saying, yeah, go and check that out, or no, don't bother about that record, it's not good enough to sort of justify buying it. We're gonna start with The Art of Noise, The Seduction of Claude Debussy. Art of Noise, Moments in Love, iconic track, iconic album. I have it. It's a classic popping animation track anyway, and as a dancer, I dance to it all the time, and I really, really cherish it. But I'm not familiar with this album, and it's gonna be the first time it's ever been released on vinyl, so I need to listen to it and check it out. We then have the first Brian Eno record, The Small Craft of On a Milk Sea. I'm familiar-ish with Brian Eno, but that particular album I'm not familiar with. Brian Eno is always a hit and miss for me, because sometimes if it gets too ambienty and too can I say generic? Well, I can see the value of his work and his contribution, absolutely valuable. But now when it comes to ambient stuff, as a clinical massage therapist, I listen to a lot of ambient music in the clinic. And so it really has to be special for me to be like, oh, what's that? Do you know what I mean? And really bring me something special. So I'm curious to listen to it and sort of discover it. And see if I need it on wax. Then we have some unreleased UK soul from the Cool Notes. Obviously that's unreleased stuff, so I can't be familiar with it, so I'm looking forward to checking it out when it comes out and see what we're talking. With UK soul and boogie, there's some really excellent stuff. There's some stuff that feels very cheesy, even for me, I love some cheesy stuff, but sometimes it gets too cheesy especially for the late 80s. I'm like, ooh, maybe not my cup of tea. Then we have Amore Libero by Goblin and Fabio Frizzi. Goblin, classic Italian prog band. And this Amore Libero soundtrack I'm not familiar with, so I need to sort of look into that, because of course Goblin has some classic themes and songs, but I'm not familiar with this, so I need to go and check it out. Then we have a very interesting EP from the Heliocentrics called Nuclear War with including Bilal. And I like Bilal. The Heliocentrics I'm okay with, not a big fan, but they're good. But this EP I'm absolutely not familiar with, so I'm really curious to see what that's all about. Then we have Idris Muhammad, Kapsha, I think that's how you say it. I'm familiar with him and his work. I have a couple of his LPs, but this particular album I'm not familiar with. Let me know if you know anything about it, if it's worth checking out. We have Rival Consoles, Mind's Eye, Erase Tapes label, usually really good output. I don't have anything from them, but they always make some really interesting choices musically. So I always listen to what they have to say, even if it ends up not being for me, it's still worth checking out. Then we have Roy Hargrove, Burn. It's a live recording. Now, I really cherish the Hard Groove album. I have an original copy of it, but it's also been reissued quite recently from Verve. I'm not familiar with this live recording. As I said earlier, live recordings, I'm like, it's really a hit and miss. I really, really love it, but most times I'm like, yeah, I don't really need a live version of stuff. But I'm curious too, and especially because this is gonna come out with a really good audiophile treatment. So I'm like, oh, let me check that out. Then we have Sky, Mind How You Go. It's a 20-year anniversary from the Morchibas lead singer. I'm not familiar with it. Morchiba's work I'm kind of familiar with, not my cup of tea. My wife's actually probably more into Sky than I am. So we'll check that out, because if I like it, I might actually grab it, because I know she will probably like it more than me. That could be something that we could both listen together. I recently did Wife Bothering Jazz video. Go check it out if you haven't seen it yet. You know, there's stuff that some of the stuff I listen to that she really doesn't care for, really doesn't like. There's stuff that she likes that obviously I'm not as a huge fan of, but I love finding records that bring us together, and this could be one of them. We then have Wendell Harrison and Tribe, tribute to Pharoah Sanders. Again, live recording, we'll see if it's a hit and miss, but Wendell Harrison and Tribe, such a highly regarded jazz, spiritual, avant-garde band and sort of music leaders, always worth checking out, even if it ends up not being your cup of tea. We then have a Terry Callier live. Again, Terry Callier, really good artist. I have his sort of Dancing Girl is just what a phenomenal track. I have 3 or 4 LPs from him. This live I'm not familiar with. I'll check it out. There's a Triangle self-titled. That's a proggy, psyche proggy album from I think the late 60s, early 70s, that looks extremely interesting. I need to go and listen to it again. I remember listening to it and thinking, okay, if I find it in the wild, I might grab it. And I don't think I've ever seen a copy. And if I did, it was like beyond expensive to justify the, purchasing it at the time. But now that it's getting a decent reissue for Record Store Day, I might actually pull the trigger on this, but I'm gonna check it out first. Lastly, we have an Abdullah Ibrahim album, Water from an Ancient Well. I'm absolutely not familiar with that album, but the cover looks really interesting, so I might check it out. So this is the selection from all the lists that I could find for Record Store Day 2026. Again, this is incredible because it's a very long list of albums that I think are worth your time and attention, and stuff that actually makes me curious to go and dig for. Again, whether I end up buying the actual records or not, this allows me to discover new music, or new music for me. And as a soul, funk, jazz background and lover, I'm excited to see so many titles that fall into this genre and category. We had so much indie and classic rock that really, from my perspective, didn't need that wider release or reissue, to be fair. And now I'm seeing really good titles. Again, if you want to line up for the stores, please feel free to do so. I did it a couple of times, like 10 years ago. I remember lining up at Soul Brothers here in Putney, London. I remember lining up at Flashback in Angel, Flashback Records in Angel, the Essex Road one. I did pick up some stuff in the past, but now, because everything goes online pretty quickly, and most things, especially the things that I'm after, usually actually end up being cheaper, way cheaper online for whatever reason. I might wait it out and see. Also, given the fact that the actual the 2 albums that I'm really looking forward to are having either a decently wide release, like the Colonel Backshot, so I don't need to queue up for that because there's going to be enough, I think, even though it's a classic, amazing album. And the Fonte album actually is not going to come out here in the UK, so I can't line up for that anyway. So I'll most likely have to buy it online somewhere else. And of course, I'm going to try to buy it from a local record store regardless, just to make sure that I support my local record store, which, as you can see, I still do. Like, I literally bought this from Upside Down Records the other day, this from Yo-Yo Records. Actually, the Fears Flyer was a pre-order, online only pre-order, so I had to buy that online. But I love record stores, and any day is record store day. I know it sounds cheesy, but it's genuinely true. And again, I'm extremely thankful and grateful for anyone that works in this industry that puts out incredible music, incredible reissues, and especially for the people that care about good music, good products, good quality stuff, because it allows me to find music that I really love and cherish. So yeah, very grateful for that. Now, let me know in the comments your thoughts about this year's list and about my selection. If there's anything I missed out that is an absolute must-have, or that I really have to check out. And let me know if what you're gonna get this year. Subscribe, like this video, all the jazz. You know what to do, and I'll see you on the next one.